That's better.
Welcome, everybody here, and welcome to those on Zoom. Let's start with the word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we give thanks for this day, for the spring-like weather that we don't yet deserve. We give thanks for the opportunity to once again gather for food fellowship and fun. We give thanks for the role music plays in our lives. We give thanks for our speaker today who will share his love for music. We ask that you be with those of our number who can't be with us today. Amen. All right, I know we have some visitors. Terry, would you like to introduce yours?
Michael Levine right here, a good friend of Joe's. Dan Hennessy, both are walking buddies of mine at the river. They're both doctors, and their group is
All right. Any other visitors? All right. In honor of Jim Gober, I've written down today's announcements because we got several. First and foremost, next week we'll not be meeting here. We're going to be taking a field trip to Agape. It's going to be the same drills. Show up at 7:27. We'll have a full breakfast. And if you want to carpool, I would meet here around 7:15 and figure that out amongst yourself. But we'll look forward to seeing you at Agape next Friday. A couple of things the church is sponsoring that are coming up that we'd like to highlight. The first is on March 8th. We'll be taking a one-day field trip to Montgomery, Alabama to see the Legacy Museum, which is a phenomenal trip. It's the history of slavery in the United States. And they also go by and see the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, otherwise known as the Lynching Museum. It's really a powerful day, and if you haven't done it, I would recommend it. Saturday, March 15th, there's going to be food packing at the Atlanta Food Bank, and the church is trying to make this intergenerational, and I think they've got the younger crowd pretty much figured out. It's this demographic, we could probably use some volunteers. So if you got a free day and would like to join others from the church that day, you could sign up online. And then once a month, we serve, Trinity's responsible for serving food down at Central Pres. It's a pretty short stint. It's from 8:40 to 9:45. And people who have done it said it's very meaningful. And February is open. Is there interest in this group? We need about 4 to 6 volunteers. Have you done it, Craig?
Hey, John, can we ask Ledbetter to mute his line, please?
All right. Terry and I did it with about 4 other members this past Sunday, and it was very good and easy, and I encourage anyone to do it.
talk about parking.
You just park right out in front on Washington Street, I think it is, across from the Capitol, and it's not busy. So and it's safe because because the General Assembly is not in session on Sundays.
All right. Well, I might try to get our group together on that, but thank you. A special thank you to Terry Love. He is responsible for our speaker today, and I've asked Terry to introduce Joe.
John did such a fantastic job. There's very little left to say. I hope everyone looked on the site and also clicked on the edition that John gave. In fact, I think all 4 of our conveners are doing a phenomenal job, and I think they should stand and get a little round of applause. Jim and Bert and Scott, wherever you are. Applause for a convener. Joe's graduated from NYU in music 2 times, master's and bachelor's, of course. Played in the haunts that when I was a kid working in an architectural firm in New York, I would go long before Joe was born. And my heroes of jazz, when I had a little jazz radio show at college, Virginia Tech, my heroes, Joe knows personally. What can I say more except where you can hear him further at the wonderful Bremen Concert Hall just down the street from us. Hilton Head at the Jazz Corner, Eddie's Attic coming up very soon, and a new music venue called the Dupree in the Dupree office building in Sandy Springs with a performance coming up this Thursday you wouldn't want to miss. But without taking any more time, Lincoln Center player we have amongst us this morning and recorded at the Blue Note. What more could anybody say? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Joe.
Well, how are y'all doing this morning? Good. It's good to be here. Yeah, my name's Joe Alterman. I grew up here in Atlanta, and basically, I asked my parents for piano lessons when I was 3 or 4. Took a few, didn't like it, wanted to quit, but my parents wouldn't let me. So from 3 or 4 to 11 or 12, I was taking piano lessons and classical lessons, and not really loving it, and always getting in trouble for changing notes. At that time in my life, I didn't know there was a music you might be encouraged to do that. So my dad, we used to go to a lot of bluegrass festivals around the state, and that was kind of the first music I really fell in love with. And eventually he started showing me recordings of jazz musicians playing some of the same songs we heard at bluegrass festivals. And that's really what turned me onto the music. It wasn't the solos, it was the way in which these great musicians interpreted melodies that I already knew. And so I guess I'll play one of those songs now. This is You're My Sunshine.
We can't hear the music. Can any of you hear the music?
No. No, I can't either.
We sent a text to Scott. I sent a text to Scott Calhoun, who's Zooming, and he sent a text to John Shepard.
Thank you.
Hey, Chef, we need to leave the mic on while he's playing so we can hear.
Folks on Zoom, was this off, Joe? I think it was probably off. Okay. We just need to keep it on so the Zoom people can hear.
Cool, cool. Sounds good. I'll do something like it. Yeah, but well, basically the musician who kind of turned me back onto the piano is the great pianist Oscar Peterson. I heard him play that song with a great vibraphone player named Milt Jackson. And Oscar Peterson, if you're not familiar, he's like one of the all-time greats in the jazz world, or really in the piano world in general. And when I was 16, I saw that Oscar was playing in New York at Birdland, and I begged my dad to go. And we it was like a high school graduation gift to me. We went up. I was so excited for the experience that even though we had good tickets reserved and everything, I made my dad get to the club 3 hours early, which was 2 hours before the doors opened, and just sat there so excited for him to come out. It turned out it was his last performance ever. And no one knew this, obviously, but at that point in his life, Oscar had had a stroke on stage actually a few years before, and it really hindered his ability to use his left hand. So if you're familiar with his music, he often grunts along with himself when he plays. That's so he's make sure he when he's improvising, he plays the things that's in his heart rather than just the things his fingers can do. And we had these really good seats that I could actually hear him grunting, and I could tell that many of the things he was singing to himself to play on the piano, his hands weren't able to execute anymore, and it was really frustrating to him. And it made the ballads that night more powerful. But at the end of the night, at the end of the concert, I went over to the owner of the club, who I didn't know at the time, and I was this idiot 16-year-old. I was wearing shorts at an Oscar Peterson concert. And I said, "This is my hero. Any chance I could meet him?" And he said, "Sure." And he took me right back. And all of a sudden, I'm like shaking and, very nervous. And I finally got up to meet him. And I said, "Mr. Peterson, you're my hero. My dad and I flew up from Atlanta to see you." And he said, he looked at me really sad and he said, "Ah, you flew up for this." And it was sad to see that, but it was really amazing to see that too, because here's like one of the greatest pianists in history being real with a idiot 16-year-old wearing shorts at his concert. But if it was Oscar Peterson's music that turned me back onto the piano, it was the music of another pianist named Ahmad Jamal that made me fall in love with the piano. I want to do this. I wanted to play the song that I heard him do that made me want to do this. This is called Like Someone in Love. No, no. Yeah. Got some sticky notes. Uh, Thank y'all. So about fast forward 10 years, I was back in New York. I'm 26 and played my first big gig, and it was at the Blue Note, this great club there. And I'm walking on stage, and basically sitting right here is Ahmad Jamal. Scared the you know what out of me. It's just like meeting Oscar Peterson, and I uh, I couldn't get out of my head that night. It's very hard to perform in front of your like favorite performer, and so I had to learn how to be ready for a situation like that, and I figured out how to approach it. So thankfully, I was ready when I got to open for another one of my favorite pianists, the great Les McCann. And Les, he's from Lexington. He was from Lexington, Kentucky, and I really identified with his sound because he has a little country thing in his jazz thing, and that's kind of what got me into it. So it was great to connect with his music, and then to meet him later, I was sound checking when he came in the club, and they wheeled him up to he was in a wheelchair. They wheeled him up to the stage, and he didn't say hello. He said, "Play me some blues, boy." I was like, "Oh shit." I did the best I could, and after a couple of minutes, he said, "Amen." So I knew I was doing something okay. And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Joe Alterman." He said, "Alterman, are you a rabbi?" I said, "No." And and he said, "Well, you a Hebrew?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, from now on, you're my Hebrew." That was it. We talked every day, or just about every day, for the next 12 years until he passed away, December 2023. But we had a lot of good times together, and he was telling me eventually after we started talking, I told him the story about playing in front of Ahmad Jamal, and he said he had a similar story he wanted to share with me. He said he had been playing his first big gig in Chicago at a place called the London House, and he was about to walk on stage, and walks Oscar Peterson to have us to take a seat and watch the show. And similarly, he got very nervous. He said he went over to Oscar's table and he said, "Oscar, I love you, but I can't play in front of you." And he said that Oscar said something to him that changed his life. He said, "Les, I didn't come here to hear me. I came here to hear you." And that made Les feel like it's okay to be himself from then on. Me too. I wish I heard that before playing in front of Ahmad Jamal, but wasn't meant to be. But one thing I love about Les is that he would take a lot of modern pop tunes of the day and put his take on it. So I wanted to do the same with Bill Withers' "Lean on Me." This is my take on that song. There's a lot of sticky notes. I'll do the best I can. Thank you. That was Bill Withers' Lean on Me. Inspired by Les McCann. And Les McCann, if you're not familiar with him, he had a bunch of big hits back in the mid '60s. One was called "Compared to What," but he was also responsible for discovering Lou Rawls and Roberta Flack, and just a great person and a very funny person. I remember the last gig I played while he was still alive. This is kind of how a lot of those days would go. We'd be on the phone, we'd be FaceTiming, and eventually I'd say, Les, I gotta get in the shower. If I'm gonna make it to my gig on time, I gotta take a shower. And Les would say, man, how you gonna play funky if you take a shower? A lot of that. He was just a great guy. And another icon I was lucky to meet at the Blue Note was the great Ramsey Lewis, and I was Ramsey's opening act for a while, many years, and he was just such a incredible guy. He, similar to Les, he would also take pop songs and put his spin on it. But one of the things him and I really bonded over, and Ramsey Lewis had a big hit or a bunch of big hits. One was called The In Crowd. One of the things we bonded over is that while we love to swing and get funky at our gigs, we really love at the end of the night coming home and playing ballads. And so we really bonded over the fact that we're kind of romantic at heart. And we'd always, whenever we get to a piano, we'd often spend time playing this next song, which is called That's All. Thanks so much. That's all. And there was one of my favorite things to do when I'd get with Ramsey Lewis was to, he recorded 80 albums, which is a lot of music to remember and a lot of music to forget. I used to try to I'd like to go back and find kind of a rare tune that I thought he might forget, and I loved trying to get him a little bit, if that makes sense. So there's one song, I'm not going to do it today because it's meant for a band, but I just wanted to share. I played this song for him, and when he remembered it, he said, "I want to tell you a story about that song." He said he had recorded that song, and about 2 weeks after the recording came out, his drummer came up to him and said, "I'm leaving the band. I'm giving my 6 weeks notice." And Ramsey said, "Okay, well, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm going to start my own band." And Ramsey said, "Okay, well, is it going to be like a trio or a quintet, or what's it going to, and the guy said, "Well, it's going to have some jazz, but it's also going to have some funk and some rock and some soul and some magic and dancing." And Ramsey told this drummer to take a Tylenol and chill out. but but the drummer was Maurice White, and he went on to found Earth, Wind and Fire, and they did all of those things. And he'd tell me about when he joined his trio. Maurice White was the face of Earth, Wind and Fire, really. And when he joined Ramsey's trio, he would set up he was so shy that he would set up his cymbals in front of his face, so you couldn't even see him when he was playing. And then they did a tour in Africa, and Ramsey was trying to figure out how to get him out of his shell. And so Ramsey picked up a percussion instrument called the kalimba, and he gave it to Maurice, and he told him he wanted him to solo with it that night. And Maurice said, "Great." But Ramsey said, "The catch is you got to get up from the kit and come to the front of the stage and take a solo with it." And that eventually led to him coming out of his shell, which really led to Earth, Wind, and Fire and so many of the groups that inspired it. It's very special. But another with Ahmad Jamal and Les McCann and Ramsey Lewis, if you're a fan of the history of jazz piano, it's often talked about that Art Tatum was the greatest, and he may have been, but their favorite was Errol Garner. And Errol Garner wrote the song Misty, but he also wrote so many other songs that are not nearly as well known, but they're really nice tunes. So I wanted to play one of them, and this is called Gaslight. Now I wanted to play my take on making whoopee. And I wanted to play this in a stride piano style. And what's interesting about that to me is that back in the day, a lot of pianists were hired solo to play dances, but they didn't have amplification. So they had to figure out how to, not only amplify their sound, but also to make people dance, want to dance to their music. So it was quite a challenge. So I hope you'll enjoy this. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, thank you. So, Les McCann, I mentioned he was from Lexington, Kentucky, and basically his last 6 years of his life, he was totally bedridden, and he couldn't really move much, and he didn't have access to a piano. So, while that was obviously very sad, it opened up the door for us to collaborate. And so, basically, what that meant is when he would have a new idea in his head or a new melody, he would call me, and we'd work on this. I'd help him, put the melody onto sheet music and then figure out the chords to add. And his big dream was to rewrite the state song of Kentucky. My old Kentucky home could use an update. And Les called me one day and he said, "I think I got it." And so I put my recorder on. He sang me this melody, and then he said, figure it out. I figured it out. I called him back. He said, "Okay, that's what I had. That's it." And he said, "Well, now put your thing on it," which means add some chords or change some notes. And I did that, and I was really proud of what I put together for him. When I called him to play it for him, the first thing he said when I finished was, "This will definitely not be the next state song of Kentucky." But he said it's not meant to be. It's just meant to be a beautiful ballad. So he said, think of a title for the song. And I thought of his voicemail machine before he went in the hospital. It was, "Hi, this is Les. Give me time to get to the phone, but don't forget to love yourself." Don't forget to love yourself. That's this. I hope you enjoy, and don't forget.
One more.
Thank y'all so much. Well, I think I'll do one more, and then we could do some questions or something if you have any. But I wanted to play. Obviously, I loved Les McCann, and that song we co-wrote. I'll close with something that I solo wrote, I guess. And this is called "Less Is More."
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's good. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. It's been really fun playing for you, really. Thanks for having me.
Any questions for Joe?
So Joe, you mentioned your father, and I think a lot of folks here know the Alterman family is quite a.
Oh, you want to use this one? Oh, no.
Yeah, let's just get. Alterman family, far flung, lots of them, a lot of Atlanta base. You said your dad had kind of gotten you into it. I've worked with a Michael Alterman who does part of y'all's real estate stuff. Where do you fit into all that family and how have you, and I was also Googling you, it looks like you're going to be back in Atlanta performing in a lot of things and you need to pitch yourself a little on where we can go see you later.
Well, no, thanks for the question. Yeah, small world. Yeah, Michael's my second cousin. So my dad is named Richard, and Michael's dad and Richard were first cousins. Yeah, so we were part of that, the food, the grocery store and all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I'm playing in Atlanta. I have this thing at the Bremen Museum. Well, I have this thing at the Dupree that you mentioned next Thursday, and then I'll be the following weekend. I'll be at the Bremen Museum with my trio and a special guest violinist. Actually, he's one of the swing violinists. His name's Aaron Weinstein. He's awesome. We'll also be the night before. I'm with a wonderful vocalist named Carla Harris who lives here in town. We're playing in Madison actually, which is a great place to go see music. And we're playing at the Madison Morgan Cultural Center. I only mention that because it's like one of the nicest halls I've ever played in. So just sharing that. And yeah, if you get a chance, my website is joealtermanmusic.com. I got a lot of stuff happening if you want to have a look. But no thanks.
Yeah, I saw Eddie's attic in there.
Oh, Eddie's at, yeah, I'm there about 4 times a year. So I'm there every 3 months. I'll be back there in March. Good reminder.
Who is credited with writing Making Whoopee?
It's this guy named Gus Kahn. Yeah. I don't know his other songs though. Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah. Oh,
You ever play the same piece twice the same way?
I don't know how. It's not possible.
So how can we listen to more of your music?
Oh, well, I brought some CDs if anyone's interested, and I do have I'm all in all the, iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. You just Google my name, yeah, or type my name in. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Those fellas could see your fingers. I watched your feet. And I'm wondering if you ever had to wear a boot, whether you'd be able to play.
That's a good question. I don't know, but I've had drummers who have made me put down a carpet because they thought it was distracting them. But to me, the funniest was a Fitbit, that device that tells you how far you run. I wore that one time when I played. It said, I played for, I think it was 3 hours. It said I ran 5 miles. Just piano. It's a workout. A full body one.
Play with other instruments, other musicians. What are your favorite other musicians to play with? Or other instruments?
Yeah, I play a lot with a bass player and a drummer, kind of a piano trio. And that's really my favorite format to play with. But I love playing with a good saxophone player as well. And I also work with vocalists, and really whatever they'll pay me to play, I'll do. But my favorite outfit is a piano trio, piano, bass, and drums. I love that. Yeah.
Saw the great Miles Davis play a show at Birdland long before you were born.
Man.
He played with his back to the audience the whole time. Ramsey Lewis did an album, I think, called Ambassadors.
Yes.
That's really what I think it is. Ambassador. I meant to use that word in the introduction.
Oh.
But you were linking us to so much past
Mm.
that at least I remember.
Oh. No, well, thank you.
Those long days.
Hey, well, that means a lot. I really appreciate it. Yeah, for me, it's important to me that, I feel like today so many people don't know what jazz is, and not that there's a good answer for that. Louis Armstrong was asked that question one time, and he said, if you got to ask, you'll never know. But another time he was asked, and he said, what is jazz? He said, jazz is the music I play for a living. That's all he said. But anyway, I feel like today so many people have like a negative preconceived notion around the word that they, so many times people will come to a show of mine and say, oh, I don't like jazz, but I liked that. And it's funny because Ramsey Lewis had the same thing happen to him back in the 60s. I don't like jazz, but I like this. And it is, so it's just, I mean, it may have been cool when Miles Davis put his back to the audience, but a lot of people imitate that, and it's not cool when those people do it. So there's a lot that I think musicians could do to help make the music more as approachable as I think it is. And I just think there's a better way to share it with the audience. Yeah. Yeah.
Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. Oh, I'll sit here. That's fine.
Thank you very much.
Thank
That was
you.
great.
Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for
I'm
having
sorry
me.
about the,
Oh, it's okay. No, it's, oh.
For a non-musician, I really like listening.
Hey, well, that's great. That's the goal.